week, Jonathan, in the greater Toronto area. And first of all, if you've talked to Canadians or gone to Canada since Donald Trump took over, you know this. They are stung. They feel betrayed about the treatment, not just the tariffs, but the talk of annexation, because they're obviously a sovereign country. They can't understand why their best friend to the south, a place where they travel to, and any Canadian with like $5 in the bank has a condo in Florida or Arizona, and they can't understand for the life of them why they're being treated like this now. Politically speaking, this has gone from a sure thing for the Conservative Party to take back power for the first time in a decade to a certainly tilt liberal race, almost entirely because of Donald Trump. Here's why. The Conservative standard bearers in a jam. A third of Conservative Canadians kind of like Donald Trump. Most of the country can't stand him. But the Conservative is squeezed between the Conservative base of his party, especially out west in the western provinces, who do like Trump, and the rest of the country who hates Trump. So he can't criticize Trump directly like you saw Mark Carney, the liberal, did there, and then sort of put the Conservative in a vice. And then secondly, Jonathan, what's fascinating about this race is
we're a Bob and Doug McKenzie when you need them, right? The famous duo of the Great White North. Viva Frei. Tell me what's going on up there, because I tell you, if Carney does happen to pull this out, the progressives are going to use this as the flag they plant to say, okay, this is the international, the Americans, the Democrats are too screwed up. The progressive movement here is too far gone. But the international liberal order will come to the rescue to save the world. They'll start in Canada, and you'll start to see the big universities overseas backing Harvard and the Ivies. This will lead to institutional support. So this is what they're going to consider their rally point will be today. Your thoughts are, why have the quote-unquote populist not really run as a fire-breathing populist? Is Canada just too nice? You just got to be too nice up there, sir?
Well, that analysis was pretty on point in that there's a substantial base of the Conservatives up in Canada who do like Trump or don't have a problem with him, but there's a substantial portion that are as brainwashed as the Liberals as relates to Trump. And so Pierre, he had a fine line to walk, but it's a line that I don't think he had to walk in the first place, because he could have just stayed silent on Trump and leveled all of his attacks and blame against the Liberals in terms of blaming whatever Trump tariffs and threats of annexation Trump was issuing, blame it on the Liberals because it was a result of 10 years of failed liberal policy. I don't think this will start a cascade of liberalism or the liberal world order worldwide. I do think Canada is something of an anomaly in their opposition to or reluctance to embrace populism. We see populism thriving in Europe, albeit, it's struggling, but it's thriving in Romania, South America, Brazil. We see it. My level of being flabbergasted is how much resistance there is to the populist movement in Canada. And I think it has to do with having a media that is totally corrupt and totally captured by the government, that basically acts as their watchdogs and their lapdogs and not their watchdogs. And so you have the media convincing everybody in Canada that their woes are the result of 3 months of tariff threats and discussion of annexation and not a decade of liberal devastation. And Pierre fumbled the ball in terms of making sure Canadians understood where that blame should lie. But we'll see today. If the Liberals win, let alone a minority, but I say heaven forbid a majority government, if they win a majority government, I do predict that it's going to lead to the breakup of Canada, not a liberalist New World Order. It's going to lead to Alberta moving to secede from Canada, because you've got a bunch of liberal, environmental, panicking, anti-science nutbags who are exploiting Alberta for its resources while crippling Alberta's ability to exploit its resources, stealing their money, spreading it throughout Canada to the have-not provinces. And Alberta's going to say, we've had enough of this. Quebec and Ontario dictating the politics of the land and exploiting us while crippling us. So I think it'll lead to the breakup of Canada if the Liberals get a majority. But I'm still mildly optimistic that Pierre can eke out a minority Conservative government, and one can only hope he manages to get a majority Conservative government. But that's looking very, very unlikely.
Okay, as we go through the day, we'll try to get you back on. What should we be looking for? What are going to be the tells that, because right there, a liberal majority government, you said, leads to a breakup of Canada and Alberta with all its resources and kind of, I would say, cowboy culture. I take it become independent or maybe even associate with the United States of America?
Oh, the move to secede. Like, hey, if Canada finds the 51st state offensive, Albertans certainly don't. And so whether or not they secede, and it leads to Quebec seceding. Quebec tried twice under ordinary circumstances. It'll lead to the breakup, balkanization of Canada. But what to look for today, we've just got to wait until the results trickle in. And the East typically goes liberal. If it goes less liberal, then we'll be more optimistic for the rest of Canada. But it's just wild that after a decade of literal devastation, everything is worse in Canada, regardless of how you want to frame it. After a decade of this, 3 liberal governments, people in Canada are sufficiently propagandized and ignorant and politically amnesiac that they're going to vote for the Liberals a 4th time. It's enraging as far as I'm concerned, watching it transpire from down here. And I don't understand what it takes to wake up Canadians to the fact that it's the Liberals and not Trump that is the source of their problems.
Viva, how can people follow you today? What's your social media? And we'll get you back on to Stephen. What's your social media that people follow you during the day?
So Viva Frei on Rumble, and I'll be live. I got my daily lineup on Rumble at 4 o'clock. I'll be live streaming the results tonight, and the Viva Frei on Twitter, and vivabarneslaw.locals.com is our locals community. So I'll be live all day. I'm tweeting my needles at the Liberals. You know, elbows up. It's really funny when you're being held up at gunpoint because crime in Canada is at basically a decade high because of Liberal policies. Gun violence is at a high, despite all of the gun laws that the Liberals have implemented on law-abiding citizens. So elbows up, Canadians. Go vote for the Liberals. You're abusers yet again.
Elbows up. Viva Frei. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you.